that? You hear howling off in the distance? There's a full moon on their eyes? Your sister's a werewolf? Did I hear someone mention Sturba? Alright, I'll stop with the cliches already, but just because something is well known doesn't mean it can't be scary. Werewolves have been around forever. The idea of a man-beast is pervasive in cultures around the world. So why not investigate some fascinating urban legends associated with the beasts in jean shorts? Hello horror heads, and welcome back to the scariest channel on YouTube, Top 5 Scary Videos. I'm your horror host, Keegan Hughes, and today we're going to talk about the top 5 scary werewolf urban legends. Before we get started, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more lycanthropic lunacy. Perfect, let's get started. Coming in at number 5, we've got the wolf strap. Like many other famous monsters, many folks assume that werewolves are usually the result of another werewolf attacking somebody. During a full moon, bites, scratches, and injuries can be extra worrisome. But being hunted down unsuccessfully by a lycan isn't the only way to join their ranks. Many legends tell of different objects that may assist people on their journeys to wolfdom. The most ubiquitous of these objects is the wolf strap. Basically a ceremonial belt, these lengths of leather can be used to transform someone into a werewolf. Put it on, you'll become a fearsome monster. It's not necessarily that simple though. First, you have to sell your soul to the devil. You have to know all the symbols to carve into the leather, and you have to frequently take care of it by rubbing herbs and oils on it. But if you're really interested in becoming a wolf and don't know any werewolves that would bite you, this might be the simplest method. Having an object of power such as a wolf strap leaves would-be werewolves pretty vulnerable when they're not in their bestial state though, so if you do take this route, make sure you've got a good hiding place. There's an old story from Russia concerning somebody with a wolf strap. A man lived way out near the farthest edge of the village and kept mostly to himself. People, as people tend to do, spun all sorts of crazy stories about this eccentric hermit. One night, while walking by his property after a fresh snow, a young lad noticed some strange tracks all around his house and barn. This was enough to pique the interest of some locals who came out to investigate. They found the tracks coming out from the front door of the house and leading into the woods. Suddenly, a howl ripped through the night. Some villagers immediately turned around and left, while other, braver folks decided to stick it out. When the man returned home, they took him into custody and searched his house. In a hidden chest, they found the engraved leather strap covered in oils and grease. What else to do but burn it all? Man included. Coming in at number 4, we've got the Werewolf of Bedburg. You may have heard of witch trials, but what about werewolf ones? Yep, folks used to get a whole party together to go out blaming people for the brutal deaths of livestock. Once someone was convinced a person was a werewolf, there was really nothing that could be done about it. Concerned citizens would arrest them, put them on trial, and torture them for hours on end until they got a confession. Whether any of what you confess is true is between the accused and God at that point. A famous trial comes from the tale of one Peter Stubb. For years, folks from Cologne and Bedburg lived in fear of wolf attacks. Dozens of people died in gruesome ways, often torn apart and partially eaten. Forensics weren't quite ready to be used effectively back then, so most people had to simply get on with their lives after any such attack. However, some people were stalwart in their belief that there was a werewolf causing all the carnage. Eventually, a group of determined villagers found a gigantic wolf and fought against it. They used spears and sticks to beat it back and eventually were victorious. The actual account of what happens next is strange and most likely unreliable, but that's what makes an urban legend fun, isn't it? Somehow it was discovered that Peter Stubb was the werewolf. He had been killing people, he'd been stealing the livestock, he'd been howling at the moon. Needless to say, the locals were shocked. This was probably the biggest news they'd ever experienced. And like 16th century folks tend to do, they decided that all new and strange things must be eliminated. So after torturing him for hours, he admitted to it all. He made a deal with the devil to acquire a wolf strap. He murdered 16 people, many of whom were children. He was the wolf those villagers fought. Then, of course, he was burned. What, they couldn't afford a silver bullet? Coming in at number 3, we've got a Terrifying Tailor. Werewolves tend to be associated with savagery. They're wolves after all. They run around looking for prey and howling at the moon. And when they do find prey, they tear it apart and eat it raw. But not this werewolf. He is a classy lad. Known as the Tailor of Chalon, he ran a clothing store in a French village. When he wasn't mending clothes, he was luring children into his shop. He would torture them endlessly, and when he'd had enough, he would slit their throats. It doesn't stop there either. Instead of eating them raw, like most werewolves tend to do, he would boil them up and have them for supper. And if he was really in the mood for some raw flesh, he would head out into the nearby woods and stalk people in his wolf form. After dozens of children disappeared, the tailor was suspected of being behind it all. Folks raided his store and discovered barrels and barrels full of bones. Yikes. At least he was cleaning up after himself, right? Coming in at number 2, we've got the Revenge of the White Wolf. This legend is a little more up to interpretation than a lot of the others, so let me know if you think it was a werewolf or something else. Alright, there once was a butcher named Bill. He lived in a town a little off the beaten path. Naturally, there was plenty of wildlife around. However, the wolf population was rapidly becoming a major problem. Livestock was being torn apart, people were getting attacked by packs, and townsfolk were afraid to go anywhere outside. Bill, being a man of action, decided to do something about it. He gave up his butcher shop and became a full-time wolf hunter. Over the course of a few years, Bill managed to kill over 500 wolves, and he made a pretty penny doing so too. The community was safe, and Bill was well paid and well respected for doing his part, so all was well. Well, sort of. Bill felt pretty guilty for killing all those animals and taking such an exorbitant sum of money, but hey, what can you do? A few years later, another wolf came into town. A farmer described a gigantic white wolf, one that was too fast to even try to shoot. After it went around terrorizing townsfolk for a little while, Bill decided it was time to go wolf hunting again. He bought a little lamb as bait, tied it to a tree, and camped out with his rifle. After that, he went silent. His friends hadn't heard from him in weeks, so they decided to go looking for him. When they discovered his fate, a brand new type of fear washed over them. The little lamb was still tied to an oak tree, intact and alive, but Bill was not so lucky. He was propped up against the tree and missing most of the important flesh from his throat. Poor guy. After that, the white wolf was never seen again. And finally, at number 1, we've got the Bray Road Beast. Most of these stories have taken place in a far-off past, so for our last legend, I'll bring it into the modern age. Bray Road is near the town of Delavan in Wisconsin. A solid trek from Milwaukee, Delavan is mostly known for its lakes and parks. But the multiple werewolf sightings put it on the map in a different way. While driving along Bray Road, Dorothy Gibson hit something. She got out to investigate but didn't see anything at first. And suddenly, a huge hairy beast charged at her car. Terrified, she hopped in and drove off into the night. She shared this story and it gained some traction. In fact, many other people who had similar experiences came forth with their Bray Road beast tales. Some folks had seen the beast on the side of the road, while others say they were actually chased by the creature. But when so many people claim to have witnessed the same pointy-eared monster on the same road, you have to start considering the possibility. Nobody seems to have managed to snap a picture of the beast, and sightings have gone down over the past little while. It was most active during the 90s, so maybe it just got a little too old by now. Regardless, that's the last thing you want to see when driving down the road late at night. Have you ever seen a werewolf with a Chinese menu in his hand? I hear they really like beef chow mein. Now I'm hungry. So what'd you think of the list? Do you believe any of the tales? Or is it all overactive imaginations and a proclivity for burning people alive? What's your favorite werewolf urban legend? Make sure you let me know down in the comments. Speaking of comments, let's take a look at some of your more morbid ones from the top 5 scary North Korean urban legends. Victor Valdez says, there was one name that kept running through my mind hearing about the dog-human hybrids. Edward. I can't be the only one who got flashbacks of Nina Tucker from Full Metal Alchemist. Oh, Victor, you just know you're gonna bring up some repressed memories with that one. Hopefully the folks in the comments can forgive you. Bobby Wright says, Keegan, the only thing scarier than a K-pop stan is an Eminem stan, and I'm one of them. I mean, isn't Eminem the source of the word stan? My tea's gone cold, I'm wondering why I got out of bed at all. Name Brand says, I used to pronounce Campbell's soup as cannibal soup. Just imagine soup with little kid parts. Hope the teeth are crunchy. You and Hannibal would get along well, I think. I don't know if I want to imagine soup like that, but hey, everyone's got their little eccentricities. Average Mustached Gamer says, sure, sesame seeds taking root in you would be problematic, but think of all the tahini sauce you could make. Oh wow, yeah, I guess you could market it as homegrown or made with love. Little do they know. And Owen Wood says, everyone beware, you're in for a scar. Goosebumps. Truly a classic. And that's all the time we have for today. Before I try to outrun an avalanche on a pair of cross-country skis, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more bonkers beasts. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.